The realest truth you will ever hear in your life is this: you're not growing because you keep choosing the version of yourself that you said you wanted to outgrow. Every single day you wake up with a choice: evolve or repeat. And without even realizing it, you keep picking repeat. You think you want success, but your actions prove you want comfort. You think you want change, but your habits prove you want familiarity. You think you want to level up, but your behavior proves you're still loyal to the same mindset that has kept you stuck for years. Growth doesn't happen because you wish for it. Growth happens because you become the type of person who forces it. And the reason you're not growing is simple: you haven't become that person yet. You want to hold on to who you are while begging for the life that only a stronger version of you can handle. You want new outcomes with old thinking. You want a new life with old habits. You want a new identity while protecting your excuses. You want to be unstoppable, yet you still stop at anything uncomfortable. You want to win, but you still think like a beginner. You want breakthroughs, but you still cling to your breakdowns. You want to rise, but you still respond to life like someone who's afraid of heights. The truth is, growth is not this inspirational thing influencers talk about. Growth is war. Growth requires fighting your lower self every single day. Growth demands that you kill every habit that keeps you small. Growth demands that you disappoint people who benefit from your stagnation. Growth demands silence, discipline, self-awareness, pain tolerance, emotional maturity, and the courage to destroy the version of yourself that would rather stay safe than step into greatness. You're not growing because you confuse movement with progress. You stay busy, but you don't build anything. You talk about goals, but you don't execute. You watch self-improvement videos, but you don't apply. You start habits, but you don't sustain. You feel motivated at night, but you hit snooze in the morning. You think reading a quote counts as transformation. It doesn't. You are not growing because your mind is addicted to your comfort zone. You keep running back to the same behaviors that destroyed your confidence. Scrolling when you should be building, complaining when you should be learning, comparing when you should be focusing, talking when you should be working, hoping when you should be executing, overthinking when you should be acting, hanging around low-value people who keep you average because they're threatened by your potential. You're not growing because your environment is perfectly designed to keep you exactly where you are. Growth requires surrounded by growth energy, not surrounded by stagnation energy. But you stay in circles that feed your weaknesses, not your strengths. You stay friends with people that don't pressure you to improve. You stay in rooms where you're the smartest one instead of the one learning. You stay around people who reinforce your excuses instead of destroying them. And you don't grow because you keep escaping the very discomfort that would have built you. Every time something gets hard, you quit. Every time you feel pressure, you collapse. Every time you feel fear, you retreat. Every time life challenges you, you look for a shortcut. Growth demands resilience, but you keep choosing relief. Growth demands repetition, but you keep choosing distraction. Growth demands sacrifice, but you keep choosing pleasure. Growth demands control, but you keep choosing emotions. And here's the most painful part. You're not growing because you keep waiting for the perfect moment to start changing, and that perfect moment does not exist. You think you need motivation, clarity, support, resources, or some magical spark to begin. No, you need discipline, and discipline begins long before motivation arrives. Growth requires that you do what needs to be done even when you're not in the mood. You're not growing because you think growth is supposed to feel good. It doesn't. Growth breaks you apart before it rebuilds you. Growth exposes the truth you try to hide. Growth forces you to confront the ugly parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Growth makes you lonely before it makes you powerful. Growth requires you to detach from the people you love, but who harm your future. Growth requires you to lose the identity that got you here. Growth requires you to confront the reality that you, and only you, are responsible for your life. Not your parents. Not luck. Not society. Not timing. Not circumstances. You. And that accountability scares you more than failure ever could. That's why you're not growing, because growth starts with honesty. And deep down, honesty terrifies you. But here's the twist. The moment you stop lying to yourself about why you're stuck, you will never be stuck again. The moment you accept that you are the problem, You unlock the power to become the solution. Growth isn't about becoming someone new. It's about stripping away everything that was keeping the real you buried. And the realest talk ever is this. You are not growing because you haven't yet decided to grow with your actions, your standards, your habits, your discipline, or your identity. But the moment you decide for real, not with emotion but with behavior, your entire life will shift into a level you didn't even think was possible. Growth is not a dream. Growth is a decision. And the moment you choose it, nothing in this world can stop what you're becoming. The realest truth continues here. The reason you're not growing is because you keep trying to change your life without changing your identity. You think new information will change you, but your old identity always drags you back into the same cycle. People don't rise to the level of their goals. They fall to the level of their identity. And your identity is built from the habits you protect, the excuses you defend, the fears you obey, and the standards you tolerate. You still think you're the person who deserves smallness and safety, so the universe keeps giving you exactly that. You want growth, but you still behave like someone who's scared of outgrowing people, scared of being alone, scared of failure, scared of success, scared of pressure, and scared of becoming the version of you that no longer fits inside the world you built. You're not growing because you treat growth like a hobby, not a mission. You treat discipline like punishment instead of a doorway. You treat opportunities like threats. You treat sacrifice like suffering. You treat discomfort like danger. You treat accountability like an attack. And because of all this, you keep repeating the same emotional cycle. You get inspired, you start something, you feel discomfort, you slow down, you distract yourself, you feel guilty, and then you start again, hoping this time will be different. But nothing changes because nothing inside you has changed. Growth requires killing the version of you that created the life you're trying to escape. That version of you is comfortable, uncommitted, easily distracted, emotionally fragile, validation hungry, reactive, lazy, fearful, addicted to comfort, and controlled by moods. That version of you cannot grow. But you protect it. You defend it. You nurture it. You feed it. And you're doing all of this unconsciously because your brain hates change. Your brain wants familiarity. Familiarity equals survival. Growth equals threat. So every time you try to grow, your mind convinces you with lies. You're tired. You'll start tomorrow. This isn't the right time. What if you fail? What will people think? You're not ready. You need more information. You need more motivation. And because you believe those lies, you never build momentum. Growth isn't blocked by your ability. It's blocked by your beliefs. It's not that you can't grow. It's that you don't believe you're someone who can sustain growth. And until that belief breaks, nothing changes. You're not growing because you keep trying to escape the emotional pain that growth demands. Growth requires letting go of people who slow you down. You don't want to. Growth requires discipline when your emotions fight you. You don't want to. Growth requires silence when everyone else seeks noise. You don't want to. Growth requires doing uncomfortable things every day. You don't want to. Growth requires looking at your mistakes without sugarcoating them. You don't want to. Growth requires taking responsibility for your own patterns. You don't want to. Growth requires saying no when your old life desperately wants you back. You don't want to. You keep treating growth like it's supposed to feel empowering. No. Growth feels like death before it feels like rebirth. The death of your old mindset. The death of your old habits. The death of your old identity. The death of your emotional weakness. And you're not growing because you're still grieving the version of yourself you need to let go of. You want growth without grief. You want rebirth without burial. But that's not how transformation works. Growth demands sacrifice, and the first sacrifice is who you used to be. You're not growing because you fear success as much as you fear failure. Success requires pressure, and pressure terrifies you. Success requires responsibility, and responsibility overwhelms you. Success requires consistency, and consistency exhausts you. Success requires discipline, and discipline threatens your comfort. You fear stepping into your potential because stepping into it means leaving behind every excuse you've used to justify why your life looks the way it does. Growth means admitting that you wasted time. Growth means admitting that you disappointed yourself. Growth means admitting that you've been playing small on purpose. Growth means admitting you could have been further by now. Growth means admitting you sabotaged yourself. And that honesty is brutal, so you avoid it. But avoidance is the reason you're stuck. Avoidance is the reason your life feels like a loop. Avoidance is the reason you feel behind. Avoidance is the reason you feel disconnected from your own potential. Growth requires confrontation, confronting your habits, your environment, your emotional reactions, your limitations, your lies, your patterns, your fears. And until you confront, you cannot correct. You're not growing because you keep looking for motivation when what you actually need is identity alignment. Motivation fades. Identity remains. When your identity matches your goals, growth becomes automatic. When your identity contradicts your goals, growth becomes impossible. Rich, powerful, successful people don't rely on motivation. They rely on identity. They don't ask, "How do I feel today?" They ask, "What would the next level version of me do today?" And then they do exactly that. Growth is identity in action. You're not growing because you haven't changed the story you tell yourself. The story in your mind is more powerful than any strategy. If your story says, "I can't," nothing in your environment will ever convince you that you can. If your story says, "I'm not ready," you will never start. If your story says, "I don't deserve success," you will reject every opportunity. If your story says, "People like me don't win," you will sabotage everything you build. And until you rewrite your story, you will relive your struggles. Your growth is waiting for you to stop repeating the same thoughts, the same excuses, the same patterns, the same behaviors, the same fears, the same emotional reactions that have kept you stuck for years. Growth is waiting for you to stop playing the victim. Growth is waiting for you to stop negotiating with your potential. Growth is waiting for you to become the version of you that your future is begging for. Growth is waiting for you to stop thinking you're helpless. You're not helpless, you're undisciplined. You're not stuck, you're scared. You're not behind, you're unfocused. You're not unlucky, you're inconsistent. You're not broken, you're distracted. And until you fix these internal blocks, your external life will stay exactly the same. But the exact moment, you decide internally that you're done repeating the same version of yourself, everything shifts. Growth begins the second you stop worshiping your comfort zone. Growth begins the second you stop negotiating with discipline. Growth begins the second you stop explaining your weaknesses and start eliminating them. Growth begins the second you stop living like someone who's waiting for a miracle and start living like someone who creates them. Growth begins the second you take yourself seriously. This is the realest talk ever. You're not growing because you haven't decided to grow with your actions. But the second you do, I promise you, life will not recognize you anymore. Your future will change shape. Your identity will evolve. Your confidence will explode. Your potential will activate. And the world will finally see the version of you that you always knew you had inside. Growth is not out there. Growth is in you.